Hey everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, normally this would be the part where I'd say major spoiler alert ahead, but we are on the journey to Deadpool and Wolverine. So we've been going back and watching all of the old X-Men and Deadpool movies. And today is no different. Today we are watching X-Men First Class. So without further ado, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from X-Men First Class, it's Jon Rico.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good. I really enjoyed this movie, and you were asking me when the last time I watched this, and I said yesterday. But before that, I really don't remember, and not in like a bad way. Like I enjoyed watching this most recently, and I remember the first time I watched this, I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of scenes that I really like from this.
There's some fantastic stuff in this
movie.
And
I think finally, like VFX were at the place they needed to be to make this movie like good. Like you know what I mean? Like when we were talking about X-Men Origins Wolverine, it was like those claws looked real not good. And I mean that could go into budget and budgeting wrong and stuff like that. But I mean, this is at least a few years later at this point, right?
Yeah, like 2, I think. Yeah, only 2 years. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're at a point where like, I mean, there's parts where like Kevin Bacon's like got a million hands moving at the same time to contain like
there's a couple little times where it looks weird. I think the CG on Beast looks a little interesting at first. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and I think that's why later on in Days of Future Past, I went to a little bit more of a practical look with him with the makeup. But other than that, there's some pretty great like CG moments in here for sure.
Right. I mean, there's a lot. I just think we're finally getting into. I mean, we're taking this journey. We went all the way from the original X-Men all the way up to now, and we're gonna go all the way past that. We're gonna go all the way up to Deadpool.
Going all the way.
So we're kind of seeing them like the technology of VFX kind of evolve, advance, and everything like that along the way, which is really cool to be able to kind of experience this journey that we're seeing these.
Yeah, where we're at the time.
Right, exactly. So I mean, kicking things off, I mean, there's a lot of scenes that I already remembered from this movie, and there are scenes that I'm going to point out later in like takeaways and stuff like that. But the one scene that I think I randomly bring up or think about all the time is from this movie, and it's the famous.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
Like best scene ever.
Oh, it's one of the best cameos probably in any Marvel movie, but it's fantastic.
But yeah, I mean that's the biggest like right off the bat scene that I will always remember from this movie, and I mean it lives rent free in my head. Like,
can you imagine him on this group of like this particular group of people they end up assembling? Like, man, that would have been such a character clash there. It would have been fun to see actually.
It would have been, but at the same time, I kind of we've kind of talked about this from some of the other retro recaps for X-Men and stuff, where I think it would have taken away.
Oh, for sure.
From a group dynamic type of thing, because you would have been looking at Wolverine.
He stands out so much. So it's
exactly.
Like, we had to give a team their chance to really do their own thing.
Exactly. So I think they did this perfectly. They had him in the movie for a split second as a cameo. We got our laugh. We got our little bit of sass, which I can keep the sass streak going. All
the
thanks to
ultimate
Wolverine.
Sass.
Exactly. I think everything worked about that, and it will forever live rent free in my head. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from First Class?
Yeah, it wasn't he back to his Wolverine haircut too, like, which is the funny part because we just did the Origins Wolverine movie where he had like the shampoo haircut, shampoo commercial haircut there, and that's supposed to be set in like the 80s or whatever it is. So at some point he had that Wolverine haircut and then went to like the really nice haircut and then went back to the Wolverine haircut. So I guess it was just a phase.
Or and go with me, they were like, we're never going to talk about X-Men Origins again. It's just like it's a fever dream.
Yeah. That's
It's
the
like
clear
a
cut part
fever
of it.
dream.
You're like, no, that never happened. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so this is my probably my favorite like X-Men movie overall. When we talk about the Fox X-Men universe, it's not my number one yet. We yet to talk about that one. But this is definitely my favorite movie with like X-Men in the title for sure. To me, I love the 60s setting. First of all, because one, it just evokes like the feeling of like the origins of the X-Men itself. I always think again, I'm gonna bring up X-Men 97, but in the X-Men 97 in the manor, there's the portrait of the first X-Men, of course, that kind of takes from like the old school comics. And this movie to me feels like the biggest homage to like that time as well. Even like the little assembly of characters we have just feels great. Like characters like Banshee and Havoc and stuff like that. They're really cool out like kind of different additions. And even Havoc being like the brother of Cyclops is really cool.
Yeah.
So we get that kind of cool ties. And also every character gets their moment to shine in this movie as well. Everyone gets a little bit of a character arc, except for maybe like Banshee and Havoc. They're kind of like a little bit one note characters. They're kind of like, Banshee's the funny guy who can do the screaming, and Havoc's like the brooding tough guy who's got to get control of his powers. But every one of them that has a pretty cool like character arc to them. And first of all, the cast in this is just really still really like a great assembly of like great young actors at the time. Zoe Kravitz, Nicholas Hoult, Jennifer Lawrence, of course, and then you got Michael Fassbender. Like this is a really like amazing cast of actors here who will go on to do some great things later on their own careers as well. So yeah, it's just a really fun movie to kind of see like the X-Men, I think, in the most like truest form, I think.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, like the main team, like the main actors in this, like what us watching now, we go, oh, they went on to do this and that. But like even like the small bit actors in this,
oh my gosh,
I remember from like a million other things. Since
all the
then.
agent characters, the agent that first brings them to the facility, played by I think Oliver Platt, the one who like when he first sees Mystique's power, he goes, "Best thing I've seen in a long time." Like I love him particularly as an actor, and so all the different, and then Moira McTaggart too, kind of being like the human character that bounces off of him. Yeah. There's a lot of great characters in this through and through.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get to some big takeaways?
Sure do.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick off big takeaways now. Like I said, there are a lot of scenes that I remember and I like, and I basically I'm gonna bring up two of them really quick for two different reasons. The first one that I really like, I really like how they kind of tied the final face-off, the final battle, into a real historical event. Like obviously, we know that's not how it had happened, but Cuban Missile Crisis was a real thing. It really happened. It was really there. Like, there was really a standoff. It was really like people were glued to their TVs, like, making sure that we weren't going to start a new world war. Like all this craziness happened. So the fact that they tie this battle to this and they tie the villain to this and his kind of motivation to start this war type of thing,
right?
It makes the movie feel more grounded in reality. In a way,
for sure.
Type of thing. And I really enjoy that. Like, I really like how they were able to do that. It's like the perfect thing that they could have done. Like you get this villain that can internalize great masses of power, like type of thing. And he's gone through the ages, staying young, doing this and stuff like that. So that's his motivation to want to kick off this war with nukes and craziness and stuff like that. So it's really cool how they were able to do that and really kind of like ground it in reality, but have fantastical things happening.
Putting the mutant spin on actual history and kind of showing how they could have an influence on certain events and again, just putting a fun spin on it.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to point out is both the original Magneto, and I'm saying from the original X-Men trilogy, and our new Michael Fassbender Magneto, younger version of Magneto, have both had really, really cool scenes where they have to manipulate weapons midair. And I just wanted to point that out because the original X-Men, I loved that scene where they're leaving the train station and older Magneto, holds all of the guns to all of the police officers and agents
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Love that
Display of
scene.
power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love that scene. And then almost equal to that scene, I love the younger Michael Fassbender Magneto, like catching midair all of the missiles when they're on the beach. Like that is just such on an epic scale, like that he's able to like stop all of them type of thing. And then not only that, but like reverse them and go off. Obviously, he was, going to try to blow up all the humans. But at the same time, it was just a really cool scene.
But not even on that, but not just like turn them around and shoot them back at them, but to also like when he loses his focus on it to gain it back. Cause like the way the tension builds with them being able to divert his attention, then they kind of start to fall. And like, okay, we're not gonna die, and then he brings them back up. You go, oh crap, we're gonna die again.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, which one's gonna happen? So yeah, I think that's like a really great like way if he was able to kind of like hone in on his power too. Yeah, for sure, I agree.
Yeah, I just thought it was really cool how both Magnetos have had these really cool midair weapon manipulation scenes, and I really in both instances I loved both of those scenes. So it was just another like smaller takeaway that I wanted to point out from this particular movie. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways from First Class?
Yeah, for me it's just more love for Michael Fassbender as Magneto, man. To me, he is the absolute star of this movie. I can't remember if I brought it up in the origins thing because I remember telling you I didn't know if I was going to save this for last video or this video, but the whole thing with the origins movies, like if X-Men Origins Wolverine had done well, they would have kept going with that storyline. And the one we were supposed to get after that was X-Men Origins Magneto, which would have been. And so it seems like they took story elements from that proposed movie and incorporate into this movie, which I thought worked in perfectly. Because one, starting the movie, of course, with his origin, which is not the first time they've done this. They did this in the first movie as well, where we got to see, the origin of Magneto's powers to the kid.
Right.
But this time we see it a little bit more of a sinister way, of course. It's displaying Sebastian Shaw as an amazing, like a perfect villain right then and there with that scene between him and his mother, of course, to bring out Magneto's power. And of course, like that teaches Magneto the only way he thinks he can channel his power is through anger, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that whole character arc in this for him is just amazing. Like I think that whole first part of the movie where he's just hunting down other Nazi soldiers and stuff like that is just like crazy work. Like he's like the boogeyman essentially. Like, and it's pretty cool. It's like he's like mutant John Wick, and he's taking out bad guys for like that would have been an awesome movie to watch on its own. But now we get the great stuff between him and Xavier, of course, and watching that friendship grow and eventually grow, not only grow but dissolve as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic story in its own. But my hands down, my favorite scene of the entire movie is not in any action scene or like that. I love the training scene and stuff like that. I love like there's some great montages in this movie.
Yeah.
But at the end of the training montage is a phenomenal scene between Magneto and Xavier, where of course Xavier goes into Magneto's head and kind of brings out a happy memory of Magneto and his mother. And I love the moment that those two share together as just like friends. And then of course it brings out this great moment where he channels his power. He says the point between rage and serenity is what Xavier says, and then he turns the satellite around for the first time, thinking he couldn't do it before. And then he found that one point in him that was able to kind of channel that power that we get to see later on in the movie. And I think his entire character arc, this movie, it's just really great. And I think Michael Fassbender was just like phenomenal. So it's one of my favorite comic book movie performances ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good. And the fact that you pointed out that like they definitely, they used some of the scrapped storylines from what would have been, an X-Men Origins Magneto thing totally makes sense when you think about it, like from this, because we do get, we get an origin, we get a middle of like the motivation of what he's doing before he meets up with Charles. And then we kind of get, not an end, but okay, this is where we know the character type of thing.
We get his turn too, because we
right.
One of the most, I always say this is probably one of the most satisfying villain deaths in any movie too, when he has that moment where he takes Sebastian Shaw's helmet and that ends up becoming what we know as the Magneto helmet. So it's like, wow, you're watching like this character fully turn into Magneto right here. And then talk about how he actually agreed with Sebastian's point of view. He just takes it to another level. And then of course, the way they shoot the coin going into the head and then like cutting back and forth between him and Xavier is just like, chef's kiss. Yeah, just a perfectly well done character arc of like a tortured soul going from like, someone on like a vengeance run to being somewhat redeemed, but then also like kind of turning again, essentially, which
Right.
is it's a great character arc.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just like you said, it makes so much sense. That could have been, I mean, you expand on certain parts and then you got the movie right there. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, throughout this movie, we really did. This movie, I mean, is another example. And I kind of bring this up a lot where they really did juggle a lot of stuff in here, but it doesn't feel like that type of thing. When you actually watch it, you don't feel like, oh, this is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique becomes a star because of this movie, and she has a great arc between herself, and it's the same thing where it's like creating the dividing line between the team at the end, where between the it's just essentially the origin of the X-Men and the Brotherhood at the same
Right.
time, which is pretty awesome. And of course, that whole thing where she doesn't feel comfortable in her own skin, and the whole conflicting ideologies between Xavier and Magneto kind of getting into her head, and yeah, and then of course you got Beast as well, like kind of doing the whole thing is like everyone has like a little bit of a storyline that you want to follow and you care about, and it plays into their whole overall arc later on too.
Yeah, I think it's a really. I mean, you said it just like right in like when we kicked off the video. Like it really does give a chance for kind of everyone to shine just a little bit, type of thing. But it's enough. It's enough that it doesn't feel like shortened for any particular reason, and it's not too much where you feel like, oh, this movie was trying to do too much, because we've already had examples in this series of movies like of X-Men movies that have already done that type of thing.
And I think that's a testament to Matthew Vaughn's direction too. He was coming off, I think, Kick-Ass of Kick-Ass at the time, and I think he was supposed to direct X3, and he ended up leaving that movie because of some stuff that they did regarding Halle Berry Storm. They kind of duped her with like a fake script essentially, and then that's kind of what happened with her character. And so the fact they were able to get him back and do this movie was really great. I would have loved to see what he would have done with this story later on with these characters. But then we got Bryan Singer coming back from Days of Future Past, so we never got to see what Matthew Vaughn would have been able to do more with the X-Men. But I think he has like probably the best take on the characters so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. You want to get to some predictions?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I mean, maybe not so much predictions, stuff that we'd like to see moving forward, whether it be in Deadpool and Wolverine, spitballing. There we go.
Yeah, we spitballing.
Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, one of the many injustices of this movie is probably the biggest injustice of this movie is Darwin's death is just like, man, what a character that was just done dirty. I think he had some really cool potential as far as like what we could have done with him in action sequences, stuff like that. We only get to see him just kind of like stick his head in a water tank and and turn into some stones that people could hit stuff off of him. So I'm like, dang, that's all you could have done with a character like that, like that with how cool his power set sounded, especially. I really I would love to see Darwin kind of come back in some form, whether it's in the MCU or again like one of these many void mutants that we're expecting to see, or Fox Universe characters, of course. Yeah. But one of the ones that we already know that we're getting, and the one I'm actually kind of excited to see is the one known callback that we're getting is Azazel. Which is actually a really cool character in this movie. I think he does some pretty wild stuff, like the one where he's dropping all the agents out of the sky and stuff like that. That's a pretty wild scene. And I just like the way that Kevin Bacon just be like, Azazel? And he was just doing things like, that's like, Azazel? I just enjoy that a lot. But the long shot in the dark of that, because we're going to see Azazel here at the Ant-Man base with all the group of the mutants like Lady Deathstrike and Pyro and Toad and stuff like that. The one thing I really want to see, because when we were talking about X2, I said I wanted to see Alan Cumming come back as Nightcrawler. And if that was to happen, this is like my big like what if thing. If Nightcrawler came in and he sees Azazel and he's just like, Dad, and they have like this moment, I'm like, what? And they talk about mom who's Mystique, but like they have like this funny little father son moment on screen for like 2 seconds. And then just leave it at that. I would be very happy with that, because like I remember watching this, of course, and I was like, wow, this is very much like Nightcrawler power set here. And then I looked up who Azazel actually was, and I'm like, yeah, he's actually like supposed to be Nightcrawler's dad with Mystique and stuff. I'm like, what? I never even knew that. How come they never even like did something like that in the movies? So yeah, I want to see something cool with the Azazel in this movie for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be hilarious. I also think it would be funny if like we have Deadpool like just go, I'll leave you two alone. And then they just leave.
Yeah.
Like they never hear it, like never really anything.
Like he's getting ready to kill Azazel, but then Nightcrawler all of a sudden goes, Dad. He goes, no, okay, you guys got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a funny throwaway thing.
Me to get in front of a father-son moment.
Yeah, exactly. So some throwaway joke that would be really funny. I mean, kind of just going off of that, like with like exactly what you said. What I think would be really funny is if we get, one of the actors that played, an older version of one of the X-Men team and one that played the younger version type of thing, like meeting up. I think that would be funny. Or
a funny version of it, because we do get it, of course. In the, right. But yeah, for sure.
But what I also think would be funny is if we got either a younger Charles with an older Magneto, or if we got a younger Magneto with an older Charles type of thing. Like I think that would be like just and just I mean obviously constantly having Deadpool be like, okay, somebody's out of it in the wrong team here type of thing, and he like just tries to like switch them to the right place or something like that. And Wolverine's totally fine with talking to any of them. Because he's like, oh yeah,
he knows all of them.
Yeah, he's like,
I know both of you. Yeah,
yeah. He's like, how old are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just it kind of lends itself to jokes like that.
I like that, and like both versions are like, hey, Logan, at the same time.
Something like that. Like, I think that would be really funny. There's plenty of stuff to play with off of both Deadpool and Wolverine in a situation or a scenario like that. So I just think, stuff like that in the Void would be funny, like just as throwaway stuff. And I mean. If any characters are fair game, I mean, like let's just do it. Let's just have it type of thing. We could even have like the full older original X-Men team and like maybe X-Men First Class version type of thing, and then like maybe one or two of them are in the wrong spot or something like that.
Hey, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, and Deadpool just like moves them to the other one or something.
Yeah. How about a moment between both of the Mystiques, the Jennifer Lawrence and Rebecca Romijn version? That'd be funny.
Yeah. Especially
there's a great scene in this. Yeah, you're probably about to think of the same thing. There's a great scene there where she's in Magneto's bed and then she turns into Rebecca Romijn and he's like, I prefer the real Raven.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfection.
Yeah,
that's where we get the meme, the perfection meme.
Yeah, perfection. Yeah. There's a couple of little meme-worthy moments that come from this too.
Oh, absolutely. There are plenty. Yeah. I mean, this movie does have a lot of stuff to really love, and I mean, definitely is higher on my list of stuff. I know we're not ready to kind of reveal the rankings list yet.
We're forming them as we go, though.
Yeah, and this is definitely this is higher than a lot of the other movies on the list. I really did enjoy kind of going back and rewatching that, and I'm finding that throughout this series it's a lot of fun. Kind of there's a lot of them that I really haven't rewatched in a long time, and it's very interesting. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. But as we always say,
is the Wolverine.
Yeah, cool. What do we got? We got Wolverine, and then what's after Wolverine?
Days of Future Past, and then Deadpool.
Ooh.
We got a nice little three punch. Three hole punch here going.
Yeah, we got a stacked lineup, and it doesn't even end there. We got plenty more after that. Anyway, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of First Class? And are you going to continue the rewatch with us before we get to Deadpool and Wolverine? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.